Now, we've got a snapshot now of just the micro situation of the economy in South Australia. Experts that are in the field, people that are really at the pointy end, and I'd like to welcome them to stage. And you can have whatever colour seat you want, if you're first up, of course. Our first panel member this morning, or this afternoon it is now, Jodie Burton. Jodie is the Managing Partner of Deloitte, South Australia, and has over 20 years' experience in account and advisory services. And hold your applause till the end. Damien Kidho is the Chief Executive of the Adelaide Convention Bureau and has successfully positioned Adelaide as a destination of choice for major events. David O'Loughlin is Strategy Director at KWP. After several years overseas and interstate, David returned to South Australia to work at the South Australian Tourism Commission before moving to KWP in 2014. If he mentions the Barossa ad today, no, I'm sure he will. Sally Powell joined Bedford in 2003 and became the company's first female CE in 2011. And our final panel member today is a man normally in Lycra, but he's not today, Vincent Tremaine. Vince is the Chief Executive of Flinders Ports and also serves as Chairman of Business SA. So please, a big welcome to our panel members. Now, I'm hoping all of the microphones are switched on. I'm really hoping that. Each has 2 minutes to give us an opportunity, the challenges for their particular industry, and we'll start with Jodie. Thank you. Jodie Burton.
Thank you, Mike. I guess I'm representing the professional services sector today. Being part of the largest accounting firm in the world, Deloitte provides accounting services, but along with the other big three, we're seeing that the opportunities for 2015 and along with the challenges are evolving very quickly. So we're seeing that 2015 for the professional services sector is going to see an acceleration of what trends we've been seeing and foreseeing for the last 10 years or so. I'm still surprised that we're still referred to as an accounting firm because the work that we do and the services that we are providing in the current economic environment and the changes in the current business community are evolving at a rapid pace, and I only see that for 2015 accelerating even more. I guess the truth is that the Big Four, nationally, globally, and certainly here, relevant to South Australia, we're all evolving in such a way that we're more, I guess, an advisory firm these days than just a pure, true traditional accounting firm. We still provide the traditional tax and audit and accounting and compliance services as many accounting firms do. But these days, and I think the Premier referred to it as the old South Australia transitioning to the new South Australia, our job as a professional services business is to help business be able to make that transition. And when you look at the economic landscape, the changing business environment, some of the challenges in terms of technology that Tim just talked about, it is our job to help that transition. So we've been seeing that coming for some time. In 2015, I think there'll be quite a bit of traction around that, and we'll only see that trend accelerating. What that really means is in South Australia here, what we've been seeing is a dedication to the small and medium enterprise sector. We invested a number of years ago now in a number of acquisitions and launched our Deloitte Private brand. So we're very much dedicated to the local business community in assisting with that transformation through that economic landscape. Digital, we've referred to that already for the last 10 years or so. We've invested quite heavily in a very significant digital practice. And I know that there's many different thoughts around digital and what that might mean, and it's quite a deep and complex area. But we've invested quite heavily in specialist expertise in the digital space to help business leverage the technology and the innovation that's required to enhance productivity and their own economic prosperity. And then similarly, we've purchased a number of years ago the Access Economics business. As business models start to change and businesses in South Australia start working globally, economic modelling at a macro and micro level are necessary to enable that transition. So I guess for us, we'd hope to see ourselves as more than just an accounting firm and assisting the South Australian businesses with the challenges and the growth prospects that we've heard today.
Thanks, Jodie. Damien Kidho, the Adelaide Convention Bureau. Convention's very big for this state.
They are huge, Mike, and I'm very delighted to say that we're kicking huge goals at the moment. But just a little bit on the Convention Bureau. We're the peak industry body for attracting and promoting conventions in the state. What is business events? They're conventions, they're meetings and they're exhibitions. So being the peak industry body, we partner and collaborate with not only government and that state, council, but also industry to attract events. And the great news is, and 2014, we only announced this yesterday, we attracted $144 million worth of new business to the South Australian economy. That is new money into the economy. So it's money from across the borders, international and interstate money. Importantly, we hear a lot about jobs. That is worth around 1,400 jobs to the economy. The ROI to government, and this is something we're very proud about, is our high yield return, 180 to 1, which is quite amazing. But what a lot of people don't understand is the visitor economy is a significant supply chain. And we've got a lot of members in the room today, so thanks for your support and coming along. But we've got hotels, venues, restaurants, retailers. The beneficiaries even go through to taxis, commercial laundries, cleaners, obviously food growers, produce growers. We've got 200 members and they all benefit significantly. But my point today, everyone sees us, or a lot of people sees the benefit of conferences being tourism. That is not actually the case. The mechanism of doing business should be seen through the eyes of a conference. And the primary reason for attracting a conference to Adelaide and South Australia, yes, we've got a great city, but it certainly isn't the primary reason. People want to come here and do business and network and work with the local sector. So there's a number of benefits that all the business people in the room today should give consideration to and be absolute champions in terms of trying to attract your own organisational, if not association, conference. We're profiling the city. You get to profile your own local industry programs and initiatives. The knowledge transformation between local industry and global industry leaders is just significant. Fosters innovation and creativity. Conferences are all about education. We take that back to the workplace and it may assist in boosting productivity. Of course, it stimulates trade and investment, and we've got Martin in the room today, and that's a key thing for him. And importantly, it is perhaps the beginning of the process to attract global talent. Everyone's probably seen a couple of months ago we won the International Astronautical Congress. That is a significant opportunity. Sure, that will generate $18 million in the state economy for the visitor economy, but with the likes of NASA, the European Space Agency, Lockheed Martin, Airbus, Boeing, those types of organisations that get to network with our local companies, Newsat and Nova, that is just amazing. So I suppose the point is, Mike, we're doing amazing things in our sector. We can do more because of that return on investment. The opportunity is huge.
Thanks, Damien. David O'Loughlin, clearly you're at it's all well and good to have the people here, but we've got to get them here. KWP, that's what you're all about, or part of what you're all about.
Well, I've moved from I suppose from the boiling pot into the fire, going from public sector where I was, I suppose, running marketing for tourism into the agency that now does the advertising for tourism. It's like the old Remington ad. But Mike, I'm not going to talk about Barossa. I won't mention the Barossa ad for you.
That'll be a change. Yeah,
what I will talk about a little bit is you mentioned 20 years in looking after political correspondence, if you like. About 20 years ago, I used to work for a company called Young and Rubicam Adelaide, which was at 182 Fulton Road. At that time, the agency was about 80 people. It was a thriving agency, best of breed, really recognised nationally as one of the great agencies in the country. Its competitors, notable names, multinationals and nationals like DDB, Ogilvy and Mather, Leah Burnett, George Patterson's. On Monday this week, KWP acquired Clemenger BBDO Adelaide, seeing the final exit of any multinational advertising agency presence in Adelaide. BBDO had signalled their intention to exit from the market, and we strongly signalled our intention to commit to it through that purchase. Through this acquisition, we've increased our skill set, we've achieved a critical mass of some kind, and we've made a real financial investment into the state, and it's importantly secured upwards of 20 jobs that would have otherwise dissolved. We're not alone. Great creative companies like Rising Sun Pictures, Kojo, Resin, MASH, all like us continue to conduct what we call cross-border raids into the eastern seaboard and often offshore for the benefit of our businesses and our employees. Why? Because we believe in the inherent commercial creativity of this state. I think we and I believe very much there's a writhing, struggling undercurrent of young entrepreneurial creative minds in this state who are fighting for air in what I'd often call the miasma of irregular conservatism that's spread into this place. If you turn left down the laneways of this emerging city, you'll find it. It's all around us, it's present, but more importantly it needs to be nurtured and nourished with opportunity. So my belief is that business in this state must do extraordinary things that go beyond the course of normal commerce to employ, fund, invest in these people, in their businesses and in their ideas. They need to be given a chance as such. If we don't, we should never be surprised, as Stephen spoke about, to find one day that these minds, many of them, our youngest and brightest, have left this place forever, taking with them their ideas, their passion and, unfortunately, our future. But if we do care about our future, Mike, in 2015, I think it can be a watershed moment, a watershed year, which we can begin a journey, if you like, back to our rightful place at the top of our country's creative tree. We can do this, I think, because true intellectual property is not encumbered by geography or size or time zones, sometimes, Premier, but only by the support of the local community, the business community around it, or lack thereof. State government, as the largest procurer of creative services in this state, and hopefully committed to the use of South Australian companies in the execution of their marketing needs, is not the solution here. Commercially creative businesses rarely seek handouts from state government. Instead, they thrive on the support of the business ecosystems that they live in. So, to the business community, many of you who are in this room today, I think 2015 can be a year in which you pay it forward by supporting the commercially creative people and businesses around you. That will not only generate prosperity for them, but hopefully build us all a future too, and that's what we're doing at KWP.
Thanks very much, David. Sally Powell from the Bedford Group. I guess you're at a crossroads, aren't you? That things are changing with national insurance disability, or disability insurance, should I say. That knocking on the doorstep. It's a competitive time, even in your sector.
Absolutely, and I have the absolute privilege of working for what is now known as Bedford Phoenix, which is an amazing organisation that every day changes the lives of people with disability through employment, training and life skills programs. And our new organisation is only 4 weeks old. We've combined 120 years of experience to create the second largest supported employment facility in the country, and it's one that we're very proud of. And the integration of our two great organisations will most definitely dominate the landscape for us over the next 12 months, but there is a far greater movement at play. The National Disability Insurance Scheme, NDIS as we affectionately refer to it, is going to throw up a great deal of opportunities and challenges, and one that our sector needs to respond to. And those challenges don't just affect the disability or the community services sector. In fact, they affect every single one of you. Under the scheme, people with a disability and their families will make informed decisions about the goods and services that they will buy to improve their lives. And this is a really significant and important change. It means that we're moving from a supply-driven, government-controlled environment to an open, competitive, demand-driven market. It means that if you want to and your organisation takes up the opportunity, you too can play in the disability space. The NDIS will mean more choices. It'll mean new entrants into the market. It'll mean for-profits. It'll mean sole providers. It'll mean new services and products that we've never seen before. The demand will be there. The money will be there. So has your organisation considered what you can provide to people with a disability? The way that we deliver services will have to change. Hyper-personalisation, innovation, value for money, quality, these things will be key. And for services that have mirrored government departments for more than a decade, we are internally going to see aggressive reform as we change our own businesses to be able to provide services in this new world. We have to compete. The not-for-profit sector no longer can survive on good intentions or knowing that places will come. We have to compete in the open market, and we have to provide something that we can't find anywhere else. And when you put increased demand and increased competition into a market, we're looking at a bigger workforce. And where is this workforce going to come from? We're anticipating that the disability sector, the workforce, will more than double between now and 2019. Just in carers alone, we anticipate in the next few years we need 80,000 more carers. Where will they come from? The reality is they will come from your business. And whether that's us aggressively targeting TAFE and university graduates, whether it's retraining people in declining industries like the manufacturing sector, whether it's attracting people that are looking for a more flexible approach to work, or maybe we need to engage traditionally under-participating cohorts, migrants, long-term unemployed, mature workers. Whichever way you look at it, we need more workers than there are workers available, and that means that the employment market is going to change, and we have to adapt with it. We all have to adapt with it. And the challenges keep coming. If you look at governance models, they need to adapt as we move from boards being conservative guardians and custodians of long-standing organisations to having to be pioneering decision makers as we reposition these businesses. How are we going to develop a point of difference and compete when we're regulated at so many points? How are we going to create marketing campaigns that are going to cut through to audiences that have never been targeted before? Financial viability issues. And finally, and most importantly, we have to provide high quality services to everyone that is currently in our services while we build a completely new model for the future. And that's just a snapshot of the world that I live in. It affects every single person in this room, and I think we can agree that 2015 is going to be an exciting and challenging one, but one that I can't wait to get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Sally. And lastly, Vince Tremaine, I guess you've been around, I reckon, as long as I have, because every time I've talked about Ports Corp, I've talked about you. How's it going?
Yeah, look, it is a challenging environment. I think all of us know that. And I just wanted to touch on red tape. Business SA recently surveyed its members. We asked them to rate the areas of state-based regulation which impose red tape on their businesses. The top item was the new work health safety legislation and codes of practice. Some of those codes run to 45 pages of legal speak, and a lot of it are irrelevant. They also talked about taxation of, that was 90% indicated that was a problem for them. Taxation and paperwork, 66%. Licences and permits, another 65%. We also asked them to advise us of the regulatory compliance areas that are burdensome in terms of their business resources. The response was understanding the obligations, implementing the obligations, preparing the information and reports, and they were 85%, 75% and 75%. Enormous issues, in particular for small and medium-sized businesses. 64% of the respondents said in the past 2 years, the overall cost of state-based regulatory compliance has increased. 64% said it's increased. I just wanted to give you and perhaps these are a bit flippant in some cases, some personal examples in recent times of issues that have come to my mind. Frustrations associated with planning approvals. That's got to be fixed. If you want to, whether it's a house or it's an office block or it's a hotel, the compliance issues, the process you've got to go through to build anything is horrendous. And I don't think the bureaucracy understands how expensive it is for those delays. They don't understand that it costs you a fortune to sit there with a block of land and not be able to get your building started. And that's one of the key issues. I know a lot of you have had to deal with that. My son is currently trying to set up a small business. He's found that it's either extremely difficult or horrendously expensive to apply some of the social amenities that you're required to put in place if you want to start up a small business. Small businesses can't afford some of the things that the planning process requires you to put in. My business has to complete a federal government document, so this is not all state-based. It's just generally about governments and how they operate. My business has to complete a federal government document called the Workplace Gender Equity Report. It's 17 pages long. And for what purpose? What do they do with it? 2 years ago, I had a midlife crisis and went out and bought a 2-seater sports car, one of those German ones you were talking about earlier. When I looked at it, I was talking to the salesman. I said, what's this thing behind the driver's seat? And he said, well, that's actually a child restraint anchor. A child restraint, think about it, child restraint anchor behind a driver's seat. I said, what the hell's that there for? And they said, look, it's easier to put in than deal with the paperwork of not putting it in. So there's just a few examples that have come to mind in recent times. By the way, I've sold the car, I've got over my midlife crisis. These are a few examples of, in some cases, very well-intended, issues that people have to deal with. I, for one, really don't want another bureaucrat saying to me, it's a cost of doing business. A lot of these things are not a cost of doing business. They're us, as business people, picking up social issues and perhaps even paying for a bureaucracy that we don't actually need. A comment from one of the respondents sums it up well. As a medium-sized business, we cannot afford to have sufficient in-house expertise to cover off all the compliance requirements. Consequently, we have to rely upon external advice with the associated costs. Unfortunately, the costs of preparing, understanding, managing and controlling regulatory compliance is quite similar regardless of the size of the business. So it has the most impact on small and medium-sized businesses. They're the ones that drive our economy. Business drives the economy, and business people are hard-working, risk-taking individuals trying to build something for their family, their community and the economy. They just need some freedom to get back to business.
Thank you, Vince. Now, thank you very much, panel. Now, this is a very quick question without notice, and I just want a 15-second answer from each of the panel, and we'll start with Damien and work down the list. As I said, the panel doesn't know I'm asking this question. Where do you see your organisation, and I think I did say Ports Corp, Flinders Ports, for Vince, and I apologise about that. Where do you see in 15 seconds your organisation in 1 year from today? If we were all coming back and sitting here 1 year today, under the current regime that we know about and the plans that have been expressed by the Premier and others today, will you be better off, the same or worse off?
Well, I think, as I said, Mike, the opportunity is grand, but we can show with additional resources and investment into the Bureau and our membership, we could perhaps even double that money from 140 to, say, 250, 280 million. What we need ideally is an ongoing bid fund. We work in a really highly competitive environment. We're in the business of buying events. We know the yield, the impact, they're huge. The other thing that would be great is Asia. We've heard a lot about Asia. To actually have a state office, not just for the public sector, but for the private sector based in Singapore, working Southeast Asia up into China would be fantastic as well.
Okay, Jody.
Oh, we see ourselves being much better off. We can see much clarity now compared to perhaps 5 years ago as to exactly where we can make a difference in this state. When you look at economic prosperity, it's an equation of population, productivity and price in terms of trade. For us here, focusing on productivity, helping businesses innovate, leverage technology, build infrastructure are exactly where we'd like to play. So we have great clarity on that, and we think we can make a real difference in this market.
Great optimism. Vince, do you share that?
I do. 5 years ago we had 100 employees. We've now got 500. There's a lot of talk about the mineral sector, and most of it's focused around iron ore. The rest of the mineral sector is booming, and we're continuing to provide our services in a port for them, and we'll continue to do so.
Sally?
A year down the track, we'll be providing the best services for people with a disability absolutely possible, and they and their families will be the big winner. We believe in controlling our own destiny, so we are very optimistic about the future. In saying that, though, we will continue to work with the gentleman in front of me to try and make life easier, reduce some red tape, and be able to be more effective, more responsive and quicker for our families that we support.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, David.
Mike, we, through acquisition and through increased skill sets, will be of more heightened relevance to our clients, doing better work for them, creating fame, putting fame into their brands, and hopefully well on the journey towards our goal, which is to be one of our state's greatest exports.
Lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panel today. Thank you, guys. You can stay there if you want. We're almost wrapped up. Just to let everyone know too, there's down the other end of the convention centre an entrepreneurial conference, and if you present your business badge you can get in there for free if you want to go and have a look at their display. Ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps it up. I'll hand back to Nigel McBride. Thank you.
Thanks. Can we just beg your indulgence for a few more minutes? We've run a little over, but Did everybody find today very valuable? I personally did. I just thought it was really great to have this kind of debate. It's my pleasure now to particularly acknowledge and thank our presenting sponsor today, Statewide, and for a couple of minutes to wrap up, let's welcome John O'Flaherty. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Nigel, and I've been given the wrap-up that I need to wrap this up fairly quickly. Look, it's my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks to Premier Jay Weatherill and to Stephen Marshall, Leader of the Opposition. And I'd also like to thank the other speakers, the other sponsors, our MC, Mike Smithson. I think he's done a fantastic job, as well as Business SA for putting on another great event. So thanks to all of those people. I won't attempt to summarise anything or everything that the speakers said, but I think that something that did come out, which was sort of interwoven with their speeches, was the fact that given that we are a small state, we actually do have to focus on in excellence on what we do, and we can compete and we can do better, and we can actually be world best practice. As well as delivering world quality services. I mean, you've only got to look at the Adelaide Oval, SAMRI, the medical precinct that's coming on North Terrace, including the new RAH. And I reflected on that and thought, well, in terms of statewide super, this is the commercial, when we pitch for business, we now go to a company or to a group of members and say, we've got absolutely fantastic investment returns, good services for our employers, great services for members, and we're ranked one of the highest in the country now. And by the way, we're South Australian. So it's not the other way around. We don't expect to get any free ticket because we're South Australian, but we are proud of it. But we are basing our future on this great state, and I hope you have enjoyed the presentations today, and that you have had the Leader and the Premier in non-election mode, although at times I'm not sure whether that was entirely the case. So please join me in warmly thanking Stephen and Jay Weatherill.
Thanks, John. Statewide has been a fantastic supporter. For those of you who don't know, Statewide chooses to invest in this state. They invest in infrastructure, and we're proud to have them as a presenting partner today. Thank you also to Deloitte and Bendigo and Adelaide Bank. Really appreciate you. Mike, as always, has done an amazing job. Let's give Mike a hand. He's really... When you're in media, you need the love. Anyway, I've got a couple of quick things to say. One is we're launching an exciting new sponsorship with Indaily today. So if you're an Indaily subscriber, you can go on your mobile phone now. I won't mind if you ignore me. And we're launching a thing called Business Insight, and we just want to simply get more stories about business out there that are current and some commentary. We have a great relationship with the advertiser, Channel 7, 5AA, but this is another aspect of what we're trying to do to get out to businesses who perhaps aren't members. And so we launched that today. I'm delighted. I think maybe it's up there. Look at that guy's face. I mean, that's going to sell so many. Yeah. Okay, I tried to put a male model in there, they wouldn't let me. But anyway, that's great. Please go to it and give us some feedback on what do you think. The other thing is you will have seen this on your table. Now, Clipsal 500 is an absolute tradition in South Australia. It's an icon. It's an amazing event. It is internationally known. And what we're saying, if you're a member today, you can get 10% off this new opportunity called the Directors Club. This is the place to be seen. This is the place to hang out. Please consider taking some clients, going along and supporting what is a very, very important part of our economy and part of our tourism. Everything is going through challenges these days. It's a very busy time of the year. The Directors Club is the place to be seen. Please take this. If you're a member, you get 10% off. If you're not a member, what are you doing here? Come on, be a member. We can do so much more than 10% off the Directors Club, but you know what I'm saying. So finally, if you're a member today, we just want to really thank you for your support. We can't do this. We're a not-for-profit, member-based organisation that works for your business and works for South Australia. If you're not a member, please think about becoming a member. It doesn't cost very much, and we are the voice of business without fear or favour that will bring the tough issues into light, and we're prepared to debate them. So we rely on people to support us, and we'd appreciate your support. Can I just say, ladies and gentlemen, you have been amazingly tolerant. We did go over. If this was a Cedar event, Hamilton, I'd be shot. We're 15 minutes over. But we do appreciate you coming. And finally, what about the room, ladies and gentlemen? Alec, you should be very, very proud of this room. And now I'm going to ask people to actually open those blinds. We've had to have them down because, we've had AV, but I can tell you that the view is spectacular. This is a world-class facility. We're so proud to be one of the first major events in this facility, and very well done to the Adelaide Convention Centre. Thank you again for all of our panellists, ladies and gentlemen. Give them a big round of applause. They were tight for time. I want to particularly thank Vincent Tremaine, our chairman, mainly because it's a career-defining opportunity for me to do that. But in all seriousness, these guys are fantastic. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please stay. There's plenty of wine. Don't go. Network. But that's the end of the formalities. Thank you very much.